Hi everyone! The pink wall is back, which means yes, I am back in Boston. A few of you were asking about my stats and extracurriculars, and so I thought I'd share them with you today. But this might be kind of a longer video because I'm going to try to combine my undergrad and my grad in one video, so we'll see how that goes. But for those of you who don't know, I did my undergrad at Stanford and I did my master's at Harvard. So I'll break it up into two parts. The first talking about how I got into Stanford, and then the second part, how I got into Harvard. So because I am not that young anymore, and my memory is failing me more so these days, I kind of have a little cheat sheet, so sorry if I'm constantly looking down to check if I'm getting things right. High school was 10 years ago, so a lot of things I've forgotten. I don't really know my exact stats, but I'm hoping I can give you a general sense of the scores I've gotten. I went to a highly gifted magnet high school, and the curriculum was really rigorous. I think we took 14 to 16 APs depending on which electives you chose. I think I did either 14 or 15. My weighted GPA was around 4.2 on the 5.0 scale, and honestly my grades weren't that great. I was not a good student. I got quite a few Bs. And I'm not saying like 1 or 2 Bs. I think I got 1 or 2 Bs every semester. Maybe except for senior year, but yeah, so I think taking a lot of APs definitely helped boost my GPA a little bit, but that was also at the cost of getting more Bs. I ranked 10th out of 711 who were graduating in the senior class. Most of my APs I got 5s with a few 4s. I did get 1 3 in the AP class that I took freshman year, and that was kind of like a wake-up call, like, oh no, I actually need to study and do well for these. Thankfully it was just a history class that didn't really matter. I was going to go to a quantitative field anyway. And then I remember in senior year we took AP Bio, and I didn't care at that point. That was after all the college admissions, and so it didn't really counter into my application. But AP Bio, I got a 2 because I didn't study at all. Just saying. Okay, and then for SAT, we were still on the 2400 scale, and I got a 2380 on that. I got a 780 on critical reading, 800 on the math, and 800 on the writing. And then for SAT subject test, I took 4, I believe. So the first was Korean, obviously. It was an easy 800. And math 2C, I got an 800. And then I took chem and physics. I don't know exactly what scores I got. I tried going on College Board again, but I couldn't access it. But from my memory, and I had to ask my dad for this too, I got 750s around for both of them. Ooh, my camera is shifting down. Apologies, but okay. So those are my test scores and my GPA. For my extracurriculars, I kind of want to break them down into different categories. Volunteer, and then I have my extracurriculars in high school, and then I have my extracurriculars outside of high school, and then any miscellaneous. The volunteer that I did for the longest, and the very first one that I did, was volunteer at a local HIV/AIDS clinic. I got into that in middle school, 7th grade, I think it was. So I had a tiger dad, and he really wanted me to start building my resume in middle school, and at that time I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was in 7th grade. And thankfully I had a connection with someone, and so he introduced me to the AIDS clinic, and I did that all throughout high school. So that was my longest one, and then I volunteered every weekend at the LA Food Bank. So that was every Saturday mornings. So those are my really regular ones, and then there were some that I did ad hoc. There was the AIDS walk in LA that I volunteered for, and then there was the Leo Club or something. It was just like a group of Koreans, I think, who started. And we would just go around LA cleaning up the streets and helping out with the LA parade, the Korean parade, stuff like that. And then I also made a trip to Tijuana in Mexico. I don't remember exactly what city it was, but we helped distribute and cook food at a local church there. So that was another one-off thing. I also volunteered at my church. A lot of the youth program teachers left, and so I guess I've been at that church for a long time, and in high school I kind of took over that role. So just teaching the little kids Bible study, having Bible study sessions and stuff like that. So that was another volunteer experience. Okay, moving on to extracurriculars in high school. And the reason why I say in high school is because I made sure to be busy at school. I tried to join as many clubs as possible and hold leadership positions in them. I joined math club freshman year, so that was all 4 years. And then at the end of junior year, senior year, I became vice president of the math club. And then there was American Cancer Society, which I also did for all 4 years, and I was treasurer junior year. And then I joined the robotics team. I think that was sophomore or junior year. And I was president of the California Scholarship Federation my junior/senior year. And then the most important thing in high school was that I co-founded a club called Make-A-Wish. So I was co-founder and then co-president for 3 years. I really tried to make sure that I had a lot of extracurriculars going on in school. In our high school, our club activities happened during lunchtime. And so there were times when I would have to split my lunchtime between 2 clubs and run from one club to another. So extracurriculars outside of school, I think there were 2 main things that I did. Every week I was part of a choir. And so I went to practice every week, and then we also competed in local competitions. And the other was that I was a private tutor for math. And then for everything else, I think the biggest one was that over a summer, I did the UCLA engineering research internship. And so I did the bioengineering one. And I also took 2 classes at the LACC, the Los Angeles Community College, and Santa Monica College, SMC. And I got A's in those classes as well. And the main reason why I took those classes were because I wanted to show Stanford that, hey, look, I can take college level classes. So that's about all the activities that I did in high school. Moving on to how I got into Harvard Graduate School. My Stanford GPA was a 3.73 on the 4.0 scale. So again, my grades weren't that great. Similar to how I got into Stanford for college, I participated in a lot of student groups. Some of the student groups that I had joined were the Red Cross. I joined Relay for Life. I volunteered at the VA. I was a writer for the Stanford Journal of Public Health. I was the fundraising chair and the community service chair for Partners in Health Engage. Another big thing that I spent my time on was the Korean Student Association. With the KSA, I was the treasurer for a year, and then I was a community something chair, not community service, but like community engagement type of role. And then one other thing I did at school was I worked at the Asian American Activity Center. That's a center we have to provide services and resources to Asian American communities at school. So aside from all my extracurriculars, I spent a lot of time doing research. One of the reasons is because Stanford is a major research institution, and so I thought I would take advantage of that. And starting freshman year, I started working in a chem lab, and I ended up working there for all 4 years, including the summer of my freshman year. The summer after my sophomore year, I actually went to Korea to do a public health internship with an HIV/AIDS organization there, and do a side volunteer with another public health department. The summer after my junior year was what became the most important experience for me from Stanford. And that's because I had received the Global Policy Fellowship then. It was for a research position in Bangladesh. I was working at 2 different organizations. One was ICDDRB, the International Center for Diarrheal Disease Research, Bangladesh. It's a long acronym. And the other was the UN FAO organization. Lastly, Stanford has a lot of study abroad programs. And one of them, although not technically abroad, is the health policy program in Washington, D.C. I guess it's kind of abroad in the fact that it's across the country. And what you do is you take classes in the evening, and then throughout the day, you're working full-time at a government organization, nonprofit, or any other local organization there. That's when I had interned for 3 months at the National Healthcare Operations at OPM. So I also want to say that I didn't go straight into grad school. I actually took a 2-year gap year after undergrad, and that's when I did research at the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. The main reason why I decided to work for 2 years instead of going straight to grad school was because I wasn't sure that my stats and extracurriculars and research experience were enough to get me accepted. While working as a research assistant for 2 years there, I gained skills in project management. I learned about how clinical trials are conducted and epi study designs and data analysis. And it's where I gained experience with programming software and just everything that I hadn't learned in school. And one other thing was that the Brigham and Women's Hospital is right by Harvard Public Health School. And so a lot of the faculty at the Brigham and Women's Hospital are professors at Harvard Medical School or Public Health School, etc. And so that really helped to make new connections at the school. And my direct PI at the Brigham was a Harvard Medical School professor. And so it was really great to get a really strong letter of recommendation from him. And so I think with all those experiences, I ended up applying to 6 graduate school programs: Harvard, Columbia, Johns Hopkins, Emory, UNC, and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. And I got into all of them. And I think the main reason why I did was because of my work experience at the Brigham. That isn't to say that everyone should take gap years. There are a lot of people in my cohort that came straight from undergrad, and that's really amazing. I don't think I could have done that. So I feel like I have a lot more to say about general application processes, but this video is supposed to be just sharing my stats and extracurriculars. So I'm just going to leave this here, but feel free to always just leave questions, and I'd be happy to help anyone throughout the process.